You're listening to The Secrets of Sacred Art, where we unearth the hidden treasures, history, and deeper meanings in religious and sacred art. We are your hosts, Alix Murray
and Kathryn Laffrey. Welcome to episode 13, our first Basilica breakdown, St. Anne de Troyes. In this episode, we'll kick off our first in a series of future episodes on basilicas by taking a deep dive to exploring the art and images of the Basilica of St. Anne in Detroit. Please follow The Secrets of Sacred Art in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. For a full experience, you can join us on SQPN YouTube channel, where you can see all the images we'll be discussing in the show. You can find us on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, on X at SQPN, or on Instagram at StarQuest Network. Okay, so in our last episodes, we talked a little bit about the elements and parts of a church and how it relates to the liturgy. And before that, we talked about A.W. Pugin and his instrumental work in the Neo-Gothic movement. So today I want to kind of combine that together, and we're going to take a look at a beautiful Neo-Gothic church in Detroit, and that's the Basilica of St. Anne. So Alix, did you know that there are over 1,850 basilicas worldwide?
I know now. I had no idea.
I didn't know that. I looked that up and went, what? How many are there? So
I know.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not like they're really something, you know?
Yeah, they're special. Yeah, they're unique. And there's 93 in the U.S. right now. Right now, I say, because it changes from year to year. And then, not that you lose being a basilica. Gosh, I hope not.
No.
But there are 3 in Michigan, and I've had the chance to be in 2 of them.
Excellent.
St. Anne is one of them, yeah. So I think we might want to give people a little background on what a basilica actually is.
Yeah. Okay. The term basilica originally referred to a specific function and style of a building in use during the Roman Empire. A basilica was a public building used by the emperor or judges for major events and of noble import or significance. The structure was usually distinguished by columns, a long center aisle, and an apse within the building. It was into the apse that the emperor and the judge would be seated. As Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire, basilicas were converted into churches, with the altar and the tabernacle of our Lord Jesus Christ substantially present in the apse. The place was occupied by this is where the emperor used to be, and now we have our Lord there instead.
The King of Kings.
Exactly, and the Lord of Lords. The basilica became the royal house that fulfilled the architectural and canonical functions that raised it to a place of honor and privilege. And there are 2 types of basilicas, a major basilica and a minor basilica. There are 4 major basilicas in Rome: the Lateran Basilica of St. John, the Vatican Basilica of St. Peter, St. Mary Major, and St. Paul outside the walls. And I think we've all heard of those names, but I don't know if we've always associated them or connected them with being basilicas. Minor basilicas are those churches throughout Christendom that have been given a special designation by the Holy Father. Reasons for bestowing this designation may be granted for architectural beauty, historical significance, liturgical renown, or any combination of these attributes. A minor basilica shares a special relationship with the Holy See of Rome and with the Holy Father. Various privileges and obligations of the minor basilica highlight this important attachment to the Vatican. The papal document, Dominus Ecclesiae, spells out the specific privileges granted to minor basilicas. The most important of these is the plenary indulgence, which may be received by the faithful who devoutly visit the basilica and participate in any sacred rite or at least recite the Lord's Prayer and the profession of faith, either on the anniversary of the dedication of the basilica, on the day of the liturgical celebration, of the title, on the solemnity of St. Peter's and St. Paul's, on the anniversary of the granting of the title of the basilica, once a year on a day to be determined by the local ordinary, and once a year on a day freely chosen by each of the faithful.
Oh, that means I might have got a plenary indulgence?
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of cool.
I'm not going to be jealous because that's That wouldn't be, that's not the right response, is it?
Makes me want to, make sure whenever I go somewhere, where's the basilica? I want to, add
Saying
that
our
one
Father.
day. I only get one day a year, so.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Good reason to visit a basilica, like maybe on my birthday or something.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Obviously the feast day. The feast day of.
On the feast day?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we need to take a closer look at St. Anne. Love this church. It's been part of my family for years. So I'm going to move us down here.
Yeah.
It is located right next to the Ambassador Bridge. Now, used to be more in downtown Detroit. We'll get to that in a moment. But what an awesome view. My dad didn't live far from there when he was growing up. He was in a Polish neighborhood a little farther out of town, or still in Detroit, but a little farther away from the river. But he said that they used to use the steeples of St. Anne to know that they were heading toward the right direction. Either that or the towers from the Ambassador Bridge to know they're heading toward the river.
I'm sure he's not the only one ever in the history of the world to use the steeples of a tower or something to find your way. Yeah.
That's why they're so tall. They're there.
Yeah. It's a very human. Yeah, I was going to say it's a very human thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah. So just recently, on March 1st of 2020, Archbishop Vigneron announced that Pope Francis named St. Anne as a minor basilica. And we need to look at some of the marks that you'll find when you go to different basilicas, because hopefully everybody's out there now looking, where can I find basilicas? And I'll put a link in our show notes for a list in the U.S.
Yeah, and I'm not far from one here, which I never knew. Yeah, in Ludlow, so I'm going to have to go and check that one out. So taking a look at little
umbrella.
Yes. Okay. So the umbrellino, originally used as a canopy carried over the Pope, is now given as an honor to those churches with the title basilica. It has a broad alternating gold and red stripes, the traditional colors of the pontificate. The keys behind this shield are the papal keys and represent the keys given to Peter by Jesus Christ. The golden key signifies the power, that power reaches to heaven, and the silver key is that it extends to all the faithful on earth. The keys are bound together in a red cord. The shield is outlined in green for St. Anne and features her teaching her daughter Mary the Word of God. 2 silver lilies appear on either side of St. Anne, representing her protection of Mary as a child. The blue wavy lines at the center of the shield represent the Detroit River and St. Anne's Parish's role in the birth of the city of Detroit. Finally, the fleur-de-lis in the acknowledgement of the French heritage of the parish. And I think, can I just say something about this? And this is something that we're going to find out about all kinds of basilicas, is that really strong link between the basilica and the Holy Father.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really fascinating.
Yeah. So when, if Pope Francis was to come visit Detroit, he would have, special privileged use of St. Anne's.
Yeah. No, it's really fascinating, that link into that the earthly head of the church in the Vatican. I think that's really fascinating. Anyway,
and
sorry.
I did not know about the gold and silver keys having different meaning like that.
No, but it makes sense, doesn't it?
Fascinating. Yeah. And then having it tied together with the red cord, it's like, it's one big family.
It is. And again, this is what I always say, I think maybe every single episode, it makes sense. This is what's so amazing. And the more you learn about Catholic sacred art, the more the faith starts to make sense to you on a different level. It's theologically consistent, or it ought to be. And when it is, it's amazing. It's great how it comes together.
Yeah. So for any of our viewers, listeners out there, if you have the opportunity and a basilica nearby, go in, look for the cute little canopy of gold and red, and see how your basilica has it maybe stitched a little differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it is going to be different, isn't it? Because they're... Yeah, but something really unique. But there are going to be elements that you'll be able to look at and go, oh, this is a basilica. So you don't have to be like us and go, let's look online and see if there are any basilicas. You could walk in and go, this is a basilica.
Exactly. I know right away. So St. Anne has very unique history in the city of Detroit, as it was one of the first buildings constructed in the city. So, of course, that's back when it was part of Fort Pontchartrain. So in July 24th of 1701, 25 canoes stopped at the foot of a high bluff, which ran along the Detroit, what is now called the Detroit River, near where Hart Plaza is today. So if you're ever in downtown Detroit, there's a section that's called Hart Plaza, right along the river, has some unique pieces of art. You'll see Joe Louis's fist nearby, and big, huge steel arc representing the auto workers. And so it's a unique little spot to be, to know that where you're standing is where the original fort was, and actually pretty much where the original St. Anne's Church was located. French explorer, Antoine Cadillac. I'll say it the good old Detroit way. Cadillac. We're driving Cadillacs.
I was just telling Kathryn, Kathryn, we went to France this past Christmas, and we drove past Cadillac, and I was like, that's so cool. I just love it. I felt like I was immediately back in the Midwest.
I actually saw an article that said no one butchers French more like the Midwest.
Aww.
We have a lot of things we have changed the pronunciations on.
But you know what? It's a lovely accent. It really is.
It's a Michigan thing. So.
Yeah, it's nothing like it.
Yeah. So in the party of people on these 25 canoes, we had 50 artisans, 50 soldiers, 2 priests, and our leader there, good old Cadillac. So they began construction of Fort Pontchartrain, and the first structure they built was a tiny chapel they dedicated on July 26th, which is the Feast of St. Anne. She is the mother of Mary, grandmother of Jesus. So what better to set up grandma's house, you know? And it's the earliest church, sadly, was destroyed in fire. There were actually several churches that had been destroyed in different fire issues. Some of the buildings were especially set aside as places where people could cook and stay warm. Not every building had chimneys or fireplaces. So there was a few places, the church was one of them, where people could go to get warm. There was also a big long house, warehouse that was also set up for people to go to stay warm.
I can't imagine living in Michigan in the 18th century and not having access to heat. That's
and along the river where you can get some serious wind blowing along the river.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, so the St. Anne's was a source of a lot of things for people. Mm-hmm. Do you know if it was made out of wood, this one that burnt down? I mean, I know one would presume, but obviously a fire can do a tremendous amount of damage to a stone building. So do you know if this was... It was a wooden structure?
Yeah, all the buildings in here, like you can see in the little drawing there, that the outside timbers that created the fort walls, and then the buildings inside, they say were primarily like wood slat, except for a few buildings like the church and the warehouse, the storehouse, were heavy oak timbers. And some of them were driven, like the timbers would be driven like 3 feet into the ground to give it real structural strength. Yeah. So wood burns.
But oak, as it ages, oak can be as hard as steel, and hard to burn as well.
I don't think it had much time to age.
Didn't? Oh gosh.
No, a lot was going on. This was New France, and you've got, all kinds of changes happening in a, beginning of a new country.
Yeah.
So inside St. Anne, or inside the fort, I love that they had their streets were named, the 2 longest running streets were St. Joachim and St. Anne. And it's like Joachim's her husband. I thought that was so sweet that they had
Yeah. So they had this in mind the whole time. They were thinking in a very in a very Catholic way from the very beginning. That's really fascinating.
The whole fort and the new, city was built to honor their faith, and especially their faith in the prayers of Saint Anne. And she's the patron saint of the French explorers at the time.
Nice.
Yeah. So the city started growing and changing. And here we have, I love old maps. So I had fun finding an old map of Detroit. So the current structure that we'll be talking about later on is actually the 8th building. There were several fires that had happened. There was actually a major fire in Detroit. And when they rebuilt, they had the 1818 church, which is what you see in the picture here. It's two symmetrical looking steeples, very similar to the way that the current church looks now, where they go up rather square and straight. Then they have an octagon tower on top of that, and then all the way up into a cross-topped.
And it's very steeple. French. I mean, obviously, but this is something that would not be unfamiliar. If somebody from Detroit who's familiar with St. Anne's, if they drove around the countryside of France, this is something that would be very familiar to them. This was later
dubbed the Old Stone Church, so went to stone. And it is located near Marshes. I always say it wrong because it's not
you spelled that way. You could say anything to me. I wouldn't know. This is like the big
central setup. And this is at the time when Detroit was also the capital of the state of Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the main road that ran just north of St. Anne's, and the little blue arrow here in my picture showing you where St. Anne's was. I love this old map because they actually drew the facade of the church.
Yeah.
Very detailed. So you can actually see the two towers and the way it's set up. And in the label, it's just called a Catholic church.
Okay.
It's like, it's St. Anne's. You don't have to say anything else. But, but the street that's just north of it, which is Michigan Avenue, the future pastor, Father Gabriel Richard, he was very instrumental in the community, the growth of Detroit, and he was the one who had suggested that Michigan Avenue needs to run all the way to Chicago. And it does now. Yeah, it's the M12. So you can literally take the M12, Michigan Avenue, all the way from Detroit to Chicago. So he knew the importance of being connected.
Yeah, early on.
Yeah. What's really nice to know is that many of the parts of the old church, this 1818 building, were moved into what's the current building now, which was built in 1886. And so they moved certain parts, including the altar, it's in the chapel, the communion rail, and I'm going to say this the Detroit way, the boobeen bell, and which was just restored. So we'll put a link in our show notes so people can actually hear it ringing again after 25 years of silence. So they actually found out that if someone had tried to ring the bell in that time period, it would have come crashing down and bringing the whole steeple with it.
Thank you, St. Anne.
So thankfully. Yeah, amen. Thank you, St. Anne. But that did not happen. And they also made sure to take a lot of the original stained glass windows from this 1880 building into the new building, which makes a lot of those windows the oldest windows in the city of Detroit, the oldest stained glass windows.
Wow. So that's good that they did that.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
Because goodness knows there are some things that could have been done with those stained glass windows. Do they have any remnants or anything from that very first church that burned down when it was like a little chapel? Did they have any remnants or relics from
church?
That? No, from
the original, the very first.
Yeah.
So sadly, when the first church burnt down in 1701, they lost everything, including the registry. But in 1704... Yeah, that was restarted, and has been going ever since, which makes St. Anne, Detroit the second oldest continually operating parish in the United States.
Wow. I didn't know that. Yeah.
So I tried looking up the first and ended up with a list that didn't even have St. Anne's on it. So I don't know if it's based on the records for how, the continual operation. It must be. So I don't know if it's one in Florida or in New Mexico.
I would imagine it would be in Florida.
Yeah,
in
so
St.
one
Augustine
of the
or St. Augustine, Florida.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one that comes up often. But here, I want to talk about our wonderful, best known pastor and known throughout the state of Michigan is Father Gabriel Richard. He came to Detroit in 1789 and very busy man. He founded schools, established a printing press, worked to overcome ignorance, poverty, and bigotry. He would set up schools that were multicultural, and he didn't separate the French kids from the Indian kids. No, everybody went to school together. He also worked within the civic government too, and again promoted the connection of Detroit to Chicago via Michigan Avenue. Brought the first printing press in. And they have a cause for canonization started. And this is his...
God. Wow, wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, that would be amazing. This is his tomb in the chapel, which is attached to the back of the apse of the current building. So you have like the main structure, the apse, then the chapel is attached to the back of that, which then connects to the rectory. And actually, I got to go to Mass right there with Father Gabriel Richard on the morning I visited. And you can see there, I also put a picture of the 1880 church, or 1818 church, is the little tiny Seepatone picture there. And then that's the picture I just took of the same altar still in use in the chapel. That's dedicated to our Father. I almost canonized him right there. Father Gabriel Richard. So.
Nice.
Yeah, he actually came up with Detroit's motto. We hope for better things. It will rise from the ashes. Because that was...
You're not going to read that in Latin?
Oh, last time I butchered the Latin. If you want to, Alix, please.
No, I think it's, sometimes I need a little bit of practice. But anyway, yes. I'm just teasing. No, that's a great, do you know what? Actually, that makes sense because I remember when I went to Michigan, I think I flew into Detroit and I saw something about rising from the ashes, but I didn't know this is where it came from. I don't know what I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, whatever.
And it's so fitting for our sports teams who have great moments of victory and then suffer loss. And
really? I was wondering, there's kind of a little bit of a silence about the latest game, but...
Yeah, shortly. The Lions did great this season, but they lost.
They did.
That's
the best they've done ever.
Podcast.
It is. No. Go Lions. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just like our motto. They will rise again. Okay.
Yeah.
We digress.
Yes, a little bit, yeah.
So just a week ago, I had the fun drive of going to downtown Detroit, heading down to St. Anne. And wouldn't you know it, it's Michigan, and woke up to a snowstorm.
Yeah.
So there she is, beautiful St. Anne in the midst of the snow. I think they had like anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of snow just dumped in different parts of the city, and not a snowplow anywhere.
Sounds like Norway. Anyway.
But it was so worth it. She's just beautiful. You can see her steeples from miles away. So the first picture there is looking right at the front facade of the church with the beautiful twin steeples. And then the second picture, I'm showing what is the, what would that be? The southwest. Because she's kind of on a tilt. Detroit is the only city in the United States that's north of Canada. There's a bend in the river there, so figure that one out.
Yeah.
But this is one of her transept windows, and then you can kind of see toward the bottom of the picture the rectory and parish office, which is another beautiful building. This whole complex is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. Now, is this, I mean, obviously the bottom is stone. Oh, I just answered my own question. I was going to say that obviously the bottom half of it is stone. I was going to ask you if the top half was like a sandstone or brick, but it's brick.
Yeah. It's brick.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got a good stone foundation. On the cornerstone, they have both the date of the founding of St. Anne and the date of the building. So you have both dates there. And I couldn't find it when I was walking around. It was snowing. I was cold. I missed the picture they actually have the 1818 cornerstone that's used as one of the stones on the outside. And I missed it. I was like,
You'll have to go back.
I'll go back again. Oh yeah. I love this church. And then the front doors, classic, the beautiful 3 entry doors, one for the main aisle, one for the side aisles, just like the Gothic, neo-Gothic architecture we talked about. And I could
we can think
a close up of the hinges and that cute little gargoyle in the corner.
There you go. I think Pugin would approve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, this was built in 1886, so that puts it just after Pugin.
Yeah, and just really when that, he started that wave, and when this church was being built, it was riding that wave of Gothic revivalism.
Yeah.
Or Gothic revival, I shouldn't say Gothic revivalism. I don't even know if that's a word. Anyway.
Yeah. So we just, I had, actually my daughter tagged along with me. We had her skip school to hang out with me. And so we had a nice walk. This is looking up at the front rose window.
Yeah.
All the little arches. We've got even a couple flying buttresses between the tower and the main roof of the nave there. And then a side view here of the northeast side of the building, which is next to the school, again, of the same architectural style. I didn't take any pictures of the school, though.
Yeah, yeah. I like how with the rose window from the exterior, you can see very clearly the Star of David.
Yes.
I really like that.
I do. I like that a lot. And then, walking back around, there's a little side porch that is where you enter to go to the chapel of Father Gabriel Richard. And as you step up onto the porch, you see this lovely little image, little statue of St. Anne with her arms around Mary's shoulder, and Mary's holding the scriptures, I guess.
Yeah.
The Old Testament. And, Anne's instructing her. And what's really neat is then when I turned and faced the same direction St. Anne and Mary are, you're looking out at the Ambassador Bridge. So this other little picture is on the porch. This would be what St. Anne and our Blessed Mother would see. So this is the welcome that people would get when they come from Ontario across the Ambassador Bridge to Detroit.
Not a bad welcome, although they look cold, don't they?
They do look cold, all their little snowy covered heads.
I know. I hate to see some statues, like the Little Mermaid statue in Copenhagen when it's snowing, because she's just like got her fishtail and that's it. And she just always looks so cold. I can't enjoy it.
I wanted to wipe them off. It was like, we got to get into Mass.
Yeah,
My
exactly.
favorite thing that I could not take a picture of, when we walked into the building, it's the smell. There's that old wood and stone smell. I wish I could describe it. It's the most, it's just a treasured smell. They say you have the best memories from smells.
That's true. Well, and also I'm thinking just permeated with the smoke from the incense over the years, and the oil from the, chrism oil and all that stuff. Yeah. All that stuff is in there. It's like going into grandma's house with all those smells. Yeah.
Yeah. So after we had gone to Mass in the chapel, and it was just myself my daughter. The priest called her sister, but she wasn't wearing a habit. So the woman who read the to the readings for the day, and the priest. So it was like a little private mass. I loved it. And afterwards, he came out and asked if I was here to take photos and look around. And I said, yes. And I said, please, Father, may I take a picture of the chalice, Paul, you used at Mass? I go, do you know how old it is? And he goes, I know it's old, but I've only been here 4 months. This is a new assignment for me. He goes, but I love it. It's beautiful. So he invited us into the sacristy, which connects the chapel and the main church. So here we have a picture of the sacristy. And if you've never been in an old sacristy, some of the finest cabinetry you've ever seen.
Yes.
I don't know why.
Yes.
I love good cabinetry, maybe because I love things that are organized. You can't get more
organized. Oh, no, I totally agree.
Sacristy.
It's beautiful. Well, the thing is, you need to have proper places for all the vestments to be stored, or else they're not going to last.
Yep. Yeah, so you have the big long drawers where they'd be laid out in, or sometimes there's cabinets where different like copes are on nice hangers. And then everything the priest needs to properly vest and say his prayers before Mass. But
do they have a little sign? Sorry, I keep getting.
Oh,
do they have a little sign?
Piece?
Yeah. No, in the
I didn't find it.
No, I was thinking, because what I've noticed in the cathedrals over here, if you go into the sacristy, it says, it says the name of the bishop. So visiting priest, so he doesn't get confused. Like, who's the bishop here? I don't know if there is something there where they have the bishop is.
Oh, no, I didn't see for that.
Yeah. Yeah. But and the one no, go ahead.
Oh, I did enjoy getting a great close up of the chalice, Paul, that the priest was using.
Lots of inspiration
little, oh my goodness. Yeah. The little inlay. And I think that was done with like an early lithograph print.
Okay. I was going to ask you if it was enamel or something. Okay.
Yeah, so, but beautifully done.
And look at I'm just looking at the coloring of the stones. So from what I'm looking at, it looks like it's green and red.
Yep.
Okay. Which would speak to the earthly, the human and maybe divine, but no, divine would be blue, not red.
Well,
this has got to be
red. So.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. This has got to be associated with Saint Anne and the Blessed Mother somehow. Those colors.
Look at Saint Anne's robes in the pictures. She's wearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And they did use green around the shield to denote Saint Anne, so she is that nurturing mother for Our Lady.
Yeah. Yeah. Growth.
Yep. All right. So after. I'm going to take you on a tour. This is how I walked through the church, because we went through the sacristy. So we're going to, come out the sacristy doors, and the first thing you see is this beautiful high altar. And right away, my daughter goes, look at the colors. It just, it accentuates everything just enough and really brings it all together. So
it does. And I have to say, we should really encourage our listeners to be our viewers at this point, because it's really extraordinary. We can go into some detailed descriptions of it for you, but you want to really look at this. It's really, really beautiful. And it was meant to be seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, take your time when you're watching our videos, hit pause, zoom in, whatever you need to do. I had to take a picture of the sanctuary rug, because that was something we did not talk about in our last episode, but that there's actually instructions for having a sanctuary rug. And it actually has special rules too. So just like the altar is cleared after Holy Thursday, the rug is supposed to be cleared away as well.
Wow. I didn't know that.
And then I loved, and actually the priest who was there, I asked him, I go, is there anything, you've only been here 4 months. Is there anything that's really caught your eye that, I should talk about? And he's like, the woodworking. He says, it's hand carved. And some of this is from the 1818 church. Now, this was not in the list, but I'm not sure. It's possible that those choir stalls, and those are in the front of the church in the section that was called the choir leading to the apse.
Mm-hmm.
And he said those were definitely hand carved, and they're absolutely gorgeous. And again, the smell of old wood.
Yeah, and also the detailing just above. If you look at it, it is a very stylized crown of thorns.
Oh yeah, it does have that look, and it almost looks like, like how they do the A and the M linked together. It
does. It looks like that as well. Maybe it's a combination of all of those, but it sort of brings to mind the crown of thorns and the suffering of our Lord. No, this looks amazing.
Yeah, so this is stepping to the front of the sanctuary, and we're looking across what's a newer altar. If you look at the picture on the right, there's a newer altar, and I like that even though it's new, they hand carved it and made it fit in with the church now. So it has, there's a very large Hispanic community right now, and so they have Juan Diego is actually one of the figures carved into the front of the newer altar, this wooden one that's in front. But you can see the beautiful reredos just reaching up to this beautiful ceiling in the soft blue and has gold on it. And the fact that they gilded the walls behind it. Wow.
I know. That's what I was looking at. Do you know, this reminds me of an image of Saint Michael, the Archangel. And that I took a photograph of when we were at the National Gallery. And his armor is reflecting the cathedral, St. Michael's Cathedral.
Wow.
That's supposed to be in the distance. Yeah, it's so cool. But looking at how the gilded walls are reflecting the red rose reminds me so much of that image. It's really fascinating. It just, everything just starts to link together, and you're like, oh, I remember this and I remember that. And no, that's beautiful.
And then above the picture that's zoomed in on right above us is 3 of the 5 windows that are up at the top of the apse. And in the center, you have St. Anne instructing Our Lady. And then I believe it's the one to our right is, or your right, is St. Denis.
Yes. Yeah. Saint Denis.
And then I never was able to figure out who the other one was, and my picture wasn't clear enough, and I couldn't find any good photos that would show his name. That's the hardest thing about taking pictures of stained glass. Even on a snowy day, I thought I wouldn't have as much light washing it out, but
yeah. Well,
maybe somebody will find out what it is.
Yeah, he's obviously a bishop. I want to say just because St. Augustine. I have No,
I have a different picture of that. It's definitely French related. So
Okay.
Yeah. But oh my goodness, here we go. Back to the woodwork.
That's beautiful.
Communion rail from the 1818 church. Absolutely gorgeous.
And all of everything to remind you of who you're receiving. All of it. Oh my gosh.
And this communion rail ran all the way across the front of the sanctuary and in front of the 2 side altars, and then had a gentle curve to it. So, I mean, the skill in this was just fabulous.
Absolutely.
And then here's another close-up of this one. I love this one because you have the wheat and the grapes.
Yeah.
And then even having that sickle in there to remind you, the grain of wheat must fall.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's beautiful. Oh, the Sacred Heart.
Yeah. And you have there's a cross and then the anchor for hope. Just fabulous work.
It is. What extraordinary work. Work.
And then as you come around, we're heading toward the left or north side of the church. I'm just going to say north, south, east, and west. Now just think of the church running straight.
Okay.
It's easier that way. So we have what is now the chapel of Our Lady of Guadalupe, because of the strong Hispanic and a lot of Mexican heritage that's come into the city.
Yeah.
They brought in Our Lady of Guadalupe. And then you can see some of the stained glass. Very French stained glass.
It is. But do you want to know something? That shrine is not out of place, is it?
No, very much so.
Yeah.
Not out of place. Yeah. And then this is the side altar shrine to St. Anne. They have a relic of St. Anne. That's there.
Wow.
Yeah. And I love this. I have seen it, years ago. I used to go with my grandmother, Busha. She was always had a good connection to St. Anne's, even though her parish church in Detroit was a little bit farther out of town, the Polish parish of St. Hedwig. She liked coming to St. Anne's, and it's not far. If you went to Detroit's Tigers baseball game, you're not far. And so she liked going to baseball games and then seeing St. Anne's and going to the Mexican town. And there's a restaurant called Mexican Village that isn't far. And I think she actually, if my dad remembers right, lived on the same street as the owner of the restaurant. It claimed to be the oldest Mexican restaurant in the city of Detroit, and it's really good.
Who's going to argue with that? Yeah.
I know.
So
Right.
Are these statues, is this plaster or is this wooden or a carved wooden statue? Do you know? It's really detailed.
I'm not sure, because this is actually one of the statues that came from the 1818 church.
Okay. Wow. All right.
And she's just beautiful. What's really nice is you can actually do enrollments to St. Anne, and they'll do prayers for you or your family or other intentions throughout the year. You can also have candles lit. I actually did that not too long ago. Had candles lit for each of my daughters, because, you're a mom with daughters. You want St. Anne to pray for them.
Exactly. And, it really is beautiful, because it's almost like she's almost in a tabernacle. But well, Our Lady is the tabernacle, but it's really interesting how they've done that, and very, very French. I have to say, the style is so French.
Yeah, and speaking of beautiful and all the little details, this is just a quick little snap of things that caught my eye. I probably could have spent 4 or 5 more hours in the church, but couldn't be there all day. So, I did the candlestick, again, reflecting all of the beautiful Gothic elements. The pointed spires even are on the candlestick.
Yeah.
Cluster
it's very
columns.
Puginesque.
Gorgeous cluster columns. And then the pew ends with their little steeple points. And then even the holy water font. I've always been on a quest for a holy water font for my house. I'd love one as beautiful as that.
Yeah. That one is beautiful.
And then this was a fun little discovery. I kept looking at the floors because they had all these little details added to them, inlay. And I'm like, what is this made out of? So I zoomed in on it, and I was like, I think that's linoleum. And I actually asked my daughter, who's an interior designer, I go, can you tell what this is? She goes, it looks like tile, Mom. I go, but there's no grout lines. And she's like, oh, you're right. I go, I think it is linoleum. So I did a little search, and linoleum would have been just recently invented a few decades before this church was built. And it was one of those new flooring styles that was great to use, great for high traffic, still is. Say it's kind of like an underrated surface, quite honestly.
Yeah, it's coming back over here. I don't know about over there, but it's very popular over here. It's interesting because it is like this new, when they used it, it was like a new material. And then when you go back to what we were learning about churches and the church, the church teaches things need to be made of materials that are really strong and will last a long time. Now, linoleum has its connotations today. It didn't have it. It was like fancy. It's kind of like aluminum. Napoleon had a set of aluminum cutlery because that was, really rare and expensive at the time. And here, it has kind of lasted, but when you contrast that with the rest of the building, this seems to be, in my opinion, a weak point. So I would hope when they, one day when they redo the flooring, they will go to tile and not replace it with linoleum and not replace it with fake tile, but real tile.
I actually want them to do the old school linoleum again in the tradition. Like you said, some of your buildings in and around your area, you have to use the exact same technique that was used for the windows and all that other stuff. Because the way to describe how this linoleum was made, I would love to see some artisan doing it in that style again with the cork.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could do it
mixed in.
Yeah.
I mean, to know
but
that this has been here since 1886. It's
well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You can't ignore that either. That it's lasted this long.
Yeah,
and if it just needs to be touched up a bit.
There's that Star of David symbol again.
Exactly. I was looking at that.
Nice.
I mean, I have to say this, even though I kind of, criticized it a little bit, it is actually quite lovely. And I think it's lovely because of the age of it. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's easy on the eye.
Yeah. Here's another picture of some more. And the one what they did in front of and we'll get around to this after we walk around the church, the Sacred Heart altar. Very beautiful. You can tell which areas get the most traffic, but the other parts of it still look brand new.
Yeah. Now that's not linoleum, is it? That looks like it might be marble. The step on the Sacred Heart.
That was all linoleum.
That's oh wow. Well, then I'm impressed. Yeah. Shut my mouth.
I'm pretty sure that is. I don't know. So, and then even the confessionals are beautiful. What better way to draw someone into confession than to have beautiful confessionals? And just like we had talked about, they're laid out at the transepts, within the transepts, but again, in that area of the nave where we're moving forward.
Yeah. No, they are really beautiful. Gosh.
The ambo. Oh my goodness, is this thing stunning. It's got all the evangelists on there. And then there's different medallions in between them. Got the Sacred Heart of Jesus that you can see in the image on the right. In the center image, you have what looks like the miraculous medal.
It does. Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
And then there's the papal shield that's on here. And I was like, okay, I got to know who was Pope at the time. So I looked it up, and that is actually the papal shield for, is it Pope Leo?
Pope Leo the 13th.
Yes, the 13th.
Yeah.
So it was fun to look that up. It's like, oh, cool. Just, yeah.
Yeah. I like the evangelists. Yeah. I'm just saying, I like all of the evangelists and how they just all look very French. Mm-hmm. And of course you see all of these, you're reminded of the French, France is, of course, the eldest daughter of the church. And you're looking at all of these devotionals and all of these things that have come out of that country and have been brought to the United States. The Sacred Heart, the miraculous medal. Yeah.
Yeah. And then looking at the transepts, this was another thing that the priest said that it's one of his favorite things to look at every day. So this first one is the north, it's actually facing northeast, the north transept. And it has the Sermon on the Mount in the top portion. So the central figure in red there is Christ, and then you have people seated around him as he's doing the Sermon on the Mount. And you're going to have to find a picture of this, and I'll have a link in our show notes to a close-up detailed picture. There's a banner above that says, I think it's "Blessed are the meek." So there's all kinds of fun things to look at. And then in the lower section, they put the Sermon on the Mount with the Last Supper.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And then
I have to say,
across the bottom, has the phrase of Christ. I'm going to paraphrase it where he says, "Do this in remembrance of me."
Yeah. Yeah. I guess what strikes me about this is how the light is just coming through. It almost looks like watercolor. It's so soft, and yet it's got this jewel-like quality to it. It's really, really beautiful, and it definitely, even on a snowy day, this is really giving off a really extraordinary kind of light and illumination.
Yeah.
And this is why we love stained glass windows, and they're beautiful. A beautiful stained glass window is going to be beautiful no matter what.
Yeah.
Whatever kind of light is shining through it, it's going to be extraordinary.
Yeah. And then when you turn to the south transept, you have the Nativity up at the top, and you have Mary in the center there. And then at the bottom, they grouped that together with Jesus's triumphal ride into Jerusalem. So you have everybody laying down their palms. So it's like Jesus' two comings.
Yeah, I was just thinking, the two Advents, maybe. I was trying to think of why would they group these two things together? But of course, the other one, the Sermon on the Mount, that's when they had the feeding of the 5,000, and then you would have the Last Supper. So that makes sense. And this is making sense as well.
Yeah, I think the banner at the top has the angel, glory to God in the highest. And then at the bottom of this one is, see if I can make it out here, is "Blessed is he
who comes in the name of the Lord."
Yeah. Who cometh in the name of the Lord. Yes.
Yeah.
Very nice. And then turning from the transepts and looking toward the back of the church, we have the incredible organ and the choir loft up there.
Yeah. I like the lighting as well. The light right underneath it. It looks like it has a clock, maybe.
Yeah, I've got a picture of that from another angle coming up here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, but absolutely gorgeous. And then you can really see the design on the inside of that rose window in the Star of David format.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of the stars in heaven. Do you know what I mean? It just really looks like the vaults of heaven to me.
Oh,
beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful.
I love it. And just the pews. You really do feel that nave. You're on the ship going somewhere. It does have a ship-like quality to it.
It does. It does. Yeah. And
I
also,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's also it really does lift the heart and the mind upwards, doesn't it? This is what's so incredible about this. You're just so, even if you went in there and we were talking about being, are you distracted by the art or the music? I mean, all of it is directed towards the worship of God anyway. Mm-hmm. But why not just get swept up into heaven, into that glorious blue ceiling with the golden stars? Wow.
And you really do get swept up. You can't help but look up. It's fabulous. Yes. I love the blue color because that's a Michigan sky on a beautiful day.
Is it? Okay.
Oh, yeah. And then I loved the windows that they used as the partition for the narthex to the nave. Because you're looking through these windows and they have just that little bit of, glass distortion from an old leaded window. And so it's like you're on the outside and you want to be in. You want the full view.
Yeah.
And then there's that fascinating little light and clock.
Yeah, it kind of looks like he's got his little hands out, but I know that's not what it's supposed to look like.
I think that's the one on the other side, yeah.
I know it is, but No, it's really nice. It's
funny.
very 19th century.
Yeah. And this is not far from what was the Michigan train station. And so it has that that transportation feel, you know? It's like it's
train station feel. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going somewhere.
And I love the lanterns. Yeah, I was going to say, I love the hanging lanterns as you walk down the aisles of this basilica.
Mm-hmm.
It really, yes, as you were saying, it's like this, it kind of suggests motion to me. You're moving forward because you could see if they, like they're swinging a little bit, and there's movement towards God and movement, in the liturgy. And as the mass takes place and progresses, there's movement.
Yep.
And of course, this is the pilgrim stage of our journey.
Yeah.
Right. And so all the more reason to
move.
Exactly.
And then again, couldn't resist looking up, getting another shot of that gorgeous ceiling with all of its gold stars.
Yeah. This makes me think, what I was just going to say, this makes me think about, over here, the cathedrals are obviously hundreds and sometimes even 1,000 years old. And sadly, in some ways out of use or they're not in the hands of the Catholic Church anymore, whether it's in France or in England. But I do know that those buildings were painted like this. And it just makes me wonder, what would those cathedrals have looked like in their prime? There was a move away from, obviously they weren't going to have it all painted and decorated in a Catholic way if the church was not Catholic, I'm going to argue it's always Catholic, but somebody else is using it at the moment. And so that was kind of something that was neglected. But when you look at these churches in the New World, and you can see, and they were built by immigrants coming over, you get an idea of what those cathedrals might have looked like. Please, will they look like that again one day? Yeah.
There's one fascinating little detail, and it's right above your head in the picture here, Alix.
Okay.
There's these paintings that are between the upper level windows and the arches of the aisle.
Yeah, yeah.
And those paintings are the mysteries of the Rosary.
Oh, wow.
So
and what style?
Great. I don't even know how to describe the style. You can also see them in the other picture in the top of the arch here.
Yeah, yeah. Just they're too far away for us to kind of look at the style.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But what I love about them, and I've seen this in other churches in and around the area in Detroit and Grand Rapids and places, and just sitting there knowing that you could pray the Rosary before Mass and be able to look at beautiful images like that to guide you, as you're saying the Rosary. Or in the small parish I go to now, it's a little old farm church. They put the mysteries of the Rosary in the stained glass windows. So it's using those beautiful images to guide our prayer.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I love this side aisle picture just because it was so neat just to see all of the little pews just do one after the other. It's just, there's something amazing about a church that you want to stay in and look at. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, and stay in and just spend time there. And it's there's a comfort in beauty, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then along the nave, you have gorgeous stained glass windows, and also the Stations of the Cross. And I took so many pictures, I couldn't show them all, but you guys are going to have to just jump in there. Maybe I'll share them on Discord as people ask for
why don't you do that? Yeah. Why don't you do that? And then also we encourage people, if they're anywhere in the vicinity, to go in, celebrate Mass, and then after Mass, just take some time, spend some time with St. Anne and Our Lady in this gorgeous, gorgeous basilica.
I love this grouping in the stained glass window that I did a close-up of. You have St. Augustine, Our Lady of Perpetual Help, and St. Monica.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
just beautiful.
That is beautiful. And when you think about St. Augustine and St. Monica, God bless her. She was probably looking at Our Lady of Perpetual Help all the time.
Oh, yeah. And then here is, as I mentioned earlier, this is the side chapel for Sacred Heart of Jesus. And then close by, they have the stained glass window of the Sacred Heart of Jesus.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they put statues in front of some of the stained glass windows, which kind of blocks the whole view of it.
Is that where they originally would have been, do you think? Is that an original thing?
I don't think those statues would have originally been blocking the image.
Yeah. They're really, really beautiful. I'm just looking at some of the decorations above and below the saints in the stained glass windows, and how it's almost like a garden. You know, it looks like there are violets and leaves of flowers, and how just this composition of how it all comes together. And these tiles, they look almost like tiles.
Yeah.
On the walls, kind of. I mean, it really is. And you know, all of this is going to have some kind of symbolism that we don't know what it is anymore. But
and our church should really look like a garden.
Done. It should. You know? That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking when I was looking at all of this. That it gives this kind of garden-like feel with all the saints being, you know, the flowers.
Yeah, bring us back to before the fall. God's always drawing us back to
exactly
originally intended for us. And then our lovely, image of, I'm going to get us out of the way for a second here because I want everybody to see the baptismal font in front of the side altar to St. Joseph. This reminded me of the altar to St. Joseph that we saw in Pugin's church.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, of course, all of that's going to be really highly influenced by what Pugin started, you know.
Yeah, it even has the same imagery on either side of the statue of St. Joseph. So we have Joseph, Mary, Jesus, you know, in the workshop. I kind of chuckled a little when I zoomed in on this picture, the way Joseph is holding his hand toward Jesus and looking at Mary. Like, what did he make now?
Yeah, what is this?
What is this kid doing? No.
Yeah, exactly. No. Give that to me, son. What are you going? Yeah.
So, and then on the other side, they have the Flight to Egypt image, which is also in that Pugin chapel. Also in this picture, you see the screen, the carved wooden screen that separates the side chapel from the main sanctuary. Yeah.
Really beautiful.
Very nice.
Yeah. And also, I'm just thinking the background of the St. Joseph shrine, where you've got his work tools and the lily, you know, his purity. I think people forget about that. But, you know,
I love that little accent that they put on the wall. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then I need everybody to see these images.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Yes. Our beloved grandma's house is in need of work. And if you have a grandma that you've ever gone, help her fix up her house, they need help fixing up her house. So in 2011, Pope Benedict XVI named St. Anne as the patroness of the Archdiocese of Detroit. And in 2013, the building was assessed by the Archdiocese for future restoration. And in April of 2017, Archbishop Vigneron decreed that St. Anne is the official diocesan shrine for St. Anne. So that this church is. And so they've started a 5 or 6 stage renovation. So fixing the bell tower was first. Got the bell going, running safely. And then they need to work on, as you can see, the ceiling is leaking.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So all those beautiful stars and the blue sky are being eaten away, and then having it leak down the walls here behind one of the Stations of the Cross and a little statue of St. Therese. Got a lot of damage that's happening. So please, if it's in your heart and you feel led, do a donation to St. Anne. Maybe you have one of the candles lit, just a simple little donation like that, or maybe just a little something more. We need to keep these beautiful churches of our heritage, not only our Christian heritage, but our local community heritage strong. And there is a vibrant community that's still growing around this parish. So it's very vital to the community.
And one of the things I want to mention about coming together and kind of helping to fix something like this up and why it's so important, it really is a way to bring people together. And, you kind of forget about all of your differences and divisions and all of these things that, we live in such a world that is so contentious. But throughout history, when people have come together to build something beautiful for God, all of those seemingly impossible problems seem to get solved. And that's the beautiful thing, focus on, and what a motivating thing to, what a beautiful thing to put your energy into. So.
Yeah. And we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons. So
yes.
We can't do the show without you, and we appreciate, that you're helping to spread the beauty by supporting this podcast. And so we'd like to thank the patrons who made it possible for us to create the Secrets of Sacred Art, including Father Jason S., Lizzie G., Father Leo H., John N., and Elizabeth T. Their generous donations to sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Sacred Art and all the shows on StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And I have one more parting view that I want to share with everyone. This is kind of working our
Can you
way
take
back
us out of the picture?
Yeah.
Just so they can see it. Yeah.
There we go.
Yay. Okay.
So as you enter or depart the church, if you were to look from the narthex, this is what you'll see. Beautiful St. Anne.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So
and I can see that canopy. Yeah, I was going to say, I can see that papal umbrella towards as you're walking in, you can see that connection with Rome. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's amazing. Find a basilica near you and you are connected to Rome, just like that.
And to all the other basilicas in the world. See how that works?
That's how it is.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for listening to the Secrets of Sacred Art on StarQuest, and hopefully you enjoyed watching on YouTube. You can find previous episodes of the Secret of Sacred and to send us feedback, go to sqpn.com/sacredart. You can send us comments by email to sacredart@sqpn.com. Leave us a comment on YouTube or by visiting our channel on the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. And yeah, if you want to see any other pictures I took, ask me and I'll try to put them up there and show you. And then we'll be back next time when we'll be discussing sacred art in a pub.
Yep.
Until then, I'm Kathryn Laffrey.
And I'm Alix Murray. We hope you find something beautiful. Bye-bye.